I don't watch TV at all, but I am still irritated by the news that long-time Australian soap Neighbours, which began in 1985 in Australia, then later aired in 1986 here in the United Kingdom, will be ending after nearly 37 years, nearly 9,000 episodes, just gone like that. Sounds criminal that a show that long can just be cancelled like that. And even though I haven't properly watched it in about 12 years, when I started doing the PMDB video series, I didn't watch a lot of stuff. I just kind of concentrated on my own stuff and went with it. So I didn't really watch it, apart from when I heard Dee returned from the dead. I had to see some episodes of that, and I kind of regret watching some episodes of that because it was not very good. But apart from a handful of episodes, I haven't really watched it in 12 years. But I was a fan. I was a big time fan in the 1990s and the 2000s. Throughout the 1990s and the 2000s, it was my TV, my tea time TV go-to show. I rarely missed an episode. From Harold Bishop being lost at sea in the most dramatic, most ridiculous, saddest, most rubbish exit all rolled into one in 1991, to the Kennedys arriving in 1994, Carol and Susan, whom have been a staple in the show ever since, to the re-emergence of Harold Bishop in 1996, which made no sense, but if Dirty Dan can return from the dead in EastEnders, then so can Harold Bishop. What else has happened? Oh yes, the big return of Paul Robinson, whom I can't really remember his initial appearance in Neighbours. Well, I wasn't alive for his very first one in the very first episode in 1985. I didn't enter this place until 1987, but so I don't really remember his initial, appearances in Neighbours. But I do remember his big return in 2004, and he went on to become my favorite character of the show. I think Stefan Dennis is a very underrated actor, but his return was arguably the most epic return in soap history. Lou's place was burning down, Harold's cafe was burning down, and then Paul Robinson just emerged from the smoke and the fire and the darkness, and he's been on the show ever since. And he got chased off a cliff in one episode, like a year later, and lost his leg. And then Stefan Dennis has been acting, pretending to act without a leg ever since. So his acting ability has been tested, and I think he's delivered a lot of times that I've seen him in. I would say Toadie, Lou Carpenter, Paul Robinson, Carol and Susan were the best characters on the show that I've seen. But some of the characters that arrived in the 2000s, like Izzy Hoyland, for example, she was also very memorable as well. I enjoyed her scenes with Susan and Harold. Speaking of Harold, I very much enjoyed his heel turn in the mid 2000s when he became drunk Harold, and then he became nasty Harold, and then he tried to kill Paul, and he got away with trying to kill Paul. And I hear he is returning for the very last episode of Neighbours, which will air in August. So I am irritated by the news. I was a big fan of Neighbours. Hell, my 14th video in the PMDB video series was me dancing to Stefan Dennis when he sang a song once in 1989. The name of it escapes me, but it did make me feel good. Not sure it made the viewer feel good, but Neighbours has been in my life in one way or the other for a long time, and if I don't find a girlfriend or have a pet cat by August, then I guess I will be watching the very last episode of Neighbours with my mum. If Coronation Street is still around, it's been around for about 100 years. The most depressing soap of all time, EastEnders, is still around. Why can't Neighbours be still around? But Oh well, farewell neighbours, thank you for the memories in the 1990s and the 2000s, and God bless Stefan Dennis. They need to make some sort of spin-off for Paul Robinson if he's not killed off in the last episode of Neighbours.